Happy New Year.
Yes. So it turns out I don't own what my now eldest kid used to call a party cone. I don't own a Happy New Year party cone, little party hat. That's, something for bringing in 2026. I looked in my little party bins. I don't have it. I don't have funny glasses. I don't have any of that stuff. So if you go to youtube.com/@thewalkcar, you will not see me wearing any of that, but I am wearing a fun shirt, I guess.
You don't have a little horn?
Don't remember? Okay. We'll get to that. I am Phil Royle. I am one of the podcast co-hosts here that sends people to the youtube.com/@thewalkcar. You could also start the year off right by going to thewalkcar.com/store and buying paraphernalia, which I've been saying all 2025 I'm going to take that site down, and I haven't yet. So
Still there.
Get it while you can. We've got shirts and hats, and I don't even remember what, because I haven't looked at our store for a while, because I ordered my stuff and I haven't worn it out yet. Maybe for 2026 I'll get some other stuff. What are my credentials? I don't know. I talk about cars, and I've done it for a long time.
Nice. And Sanchez, I talk about cars too.
We should do something about that.
We should. Podcaster for going on 5 years. I don't know if this upcoming year will be the fourth or fifth year.
I'm not a mathematician. I don't know how to do things like that.
Been a part of this crazy world with four wheels for nigh on 2+ decades. I'll just leave it at that.
So, am I jumping in?
Jump right ahead.
Okay. You were talking about the little party horns.
Yes.
Thing. Remember, I think it was episode 100. I broke one of those out. And I blew the little party horn. And we were using different software at the time, and it completely canceled out the noise.
Mm-hmm.
So that led me down.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
Yeah. So if you were thinking, you could
try to do it live, and it just was like silence.
Complete noise cancellation, took it all out. So then I went in and started messing with audio settings and doing manual noise cancellation on this. Man, you know what? Start a podcast, they say. It'll be easy, they say. But it's not. I mean, it is. It's way easier since before the pandemic. Doing a podcast after the pandemic, post-pandemic, you could do it in Zoom, which was how we were doing it. Yeah. And it's super easy now, like a 2-person podcast or multiple if you want, but you could do it for free recording through Zoom, but you've really got to watch the audio settings on the thing or else it cancels out the fun. And we don't want to cancel out the fun.
I think that's a good headline for this episode.
Don't cancel out the fun?
Don't cancel out the fun.
Who is trying to cancel out the fun?
The European Union was, but I guess they're going to let the party continue.
Whoa. Now you just took that in a different direction than I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking that they are canceling out the fun now with their new proposal. You're saying they were canceling out the fun before in 2022 when they introduced this proposal, which is a very interesting take from the person that drives an EV.
Well, I don't know. I guess
so we're going to have to let the good times roll again, but it's not that easy. All right. So the EU in 2022, mid-2022, introduced a thing. I don't know what it's called over there. We'll call it a thing. That is much like math that I don't know. I don't know how they rule the EU, but they proposed banning internal combustion engines for at least consumer vehicles.
Yeah. Light duty vehicles, yeah.
Starting in 2035. And that was like June 2022. And now they've moved to say
not so fast.
Yeah, maybe not. According to this article on Car and Driver, which link in the show notes, Chancellor Friedrich Merz wrote saying, let's not, hold up, wait a minute. Not so fast because I ain't with it. Remember that song?
Yeah.
Yes. You're just like, yes, let's move on. So instead, they want to require total tailpipe emissions to be reduced by 90% compared with 2021. To me, and that's in 2035. So by 2035, they want tailpipe emissions to be 90%, reduced by 90% versus 2021, which to me says we've got to go EV. I think that's how was it California? There was some states that were trying to do a ban, but it was a similar way. You were just, or maybe that was the so-called EV mandate in America. It was just making emissions so difficult, and that was why Stellantis got rid of the V8s and
basically making it so where electrification would be the easiest path to compliance.
Yeah, the easiest and potentially only if you make it so difficult. Like you end up with no sports cars at the end of the day.
So what I'm reading from this is they're just kind of changing the formula a little bit. So whereas before it would basically mandate EVs, now they're saying, well, if you do this and you do this, then technically maybe you could meet this goal and still have, ICE. So
now they're saying the remaining 10% of emissions reductions will have to come from biofuels, e-fuels, and European-made low-carbon steel. What? Gonna burn steel? I don't understand the last part.
It's I guess they're kind of seeing that as an offset.
Okay. But so they're saying biofuels and e-fuels, so not so-called fossil fuels. So they're still trying to cut out. They're saying this sounds complicated. They're saying okay to internal combustion, but they're saying it's got to come from
a more eco-friendly source.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Which generally means more expensive. Which generally means you're going to end up going EV because that's the cheaper way to go.
Well, I mean, okay, so I have a lot to share. I have a lot to say about this.
Really? Because we have about another 30 minutes of podcast to fill, so go for it.
So, and I'm just going to jump straight into the nitty gritty of it. I think the European auto community, the manufacturers, they're kind of in crisis mode right now. And I think the reason the pushback to this mandate, if you want to call it that, has been so fierce is they came to the realization of how far behind they are on EVs. And they're already, in Europe, they're already seeing the Chinese kind of come in and take market share. And basically this mandate would have just handed China even more market share. And they're like, we're not prepared. We're not ready. We're not cost competitive. Throw us a lifeline. And I think that's kind of what this is. So, I mean, I do feel ultimately electrification in one form or another is kind of inevitable. Now, I was actually, in my solitary thoughts, which I have a lot of, I did kind of come around to being kind of a reluctant advocate of hydrogen, but we'll get to that a little later. I know you're like, but
wait,
yeah,
so
there is a path where I think that potentially makes sense. But
are we going to get to that later, or do you want to get to that now? I don't really know where, because like I started off with the Watt car thinking hydrogen was a possibility, that hydrogen was something, a potential reality for consumer vehicles. And it probably took a year or so before I was like, you know what? I don't know what I was thinking. As far as consumer grade vehicles goes, hydrogen, whether it's using a fuel cell or converted to be internal combustion, just isn't there on so many levels. And one of them, I've always hated the infrastructure argument. I've always hated, well, the infrastructure's not there. Because look at EVs, the infrastructure was not there. You go back to 2010, kind of 2013. Yeah. But with hydrogen, it's never increased in its infrastructure, even though you've got companies like Toyota that have been hyping it for
decades.
For forever. They've got a little throughfare in LA. I'm in the LA area. They've got like a throughfare from the Long Beach port to wherever it is that it goes, where they run hydrogen trucks. And there's just no increase of infrastructure anywhere that goes along with this. They've built like the thing they need to build, and then that was it.
I may not be alive when this finally comes to fruition, because I think the for hydrogen to make sense depends on nuclear energy. And what I'm talking is like fusion reactors, which
Mr. Fusion.
Mr. Fusion, but I mean, effectively, and depending on who you listen to, either that technology is imminent or decades
pie in the sky,
or pie in the sky.
Yeah,
but
it's somewhere between imminent and pie in the sky.
Theoretically, if that were ever to be a thing, I could see a path of viability for hydrogen. But until that happens, it's going to be niche. So anyway, I don't know if we want to unpack that any more than that, but yes, in that very, very narrow specific scenario, I could see a path for hydrogen. But apart from that, I don't see it happening. Anyway, getting back to the main show here. I think bottom line, I mean, this is going to sound kind of savage, and if people want to savage me in the comments, whatever. Yeah, this is the European auto industry going through an existential crisis, trying to figure out how to stay alive. And this is, I think they see as their last best chance to do that, before, the Chinese tsunami. I know I'm like mixing metaphors and cultures, but kind of comes in and just like, so this, I say good luck for them. I mean, but I think probably I would say in the next 15 to 20 years, it's going to change. It's going to change from like mandates and sticks to carrots, where I think the market will kind of shift, where there will be more of a natural market pull in favor of EVs and away from ICE predominantly, where it's not going to take like these huge tax credits or mandates or whatever. People are just naturally going to gravitate toward EVs as the better option. And then, these companies have put, all this R&D money into ICE. They're going to be, I think there's a good possibility they could be just kind of sitting on the lot, and, nobody wants them. And then they're going to say like, wow, maybe we should have pivoted earlier. Now, I think the question is, how long is that timeline? How long is the I guess the viability window for ICE? I would say 15, maybe 20 years. But I think 20 years from now, ICE is going to look, outside of the context of a range extender. I think we'll probably have range extenders in some form, probably, I'd say through 2050 at least. But, if it's just a purely internal combustion powertrain, I think those are going to start looking kind of dated. I would say probably around 2035. So about 10 years from now. But, who knows? I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't know. So where I'm held up on adoption of EVs is I don't know if they would naturally get adopted by the public if it was even equal to equal, like cost the same. I don't know what would get, because I'm weird. I'm not normal person. You're not normal person. I don't know what would make somebody walk in and you go in and you go, okay, well, this pickup truck has a V6 and this one has a V8 and I need to tow, so I will naturally go with the V8. If you walk in and you say, okay, well, this car is electric and this car is gas powered, why would you go, if it costs the same amount even, why would you go with electric versus what you've known your entire life and you know how to operate? And that's the jump. And I know you go back to like butts and seats, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're taking a chance on a $50,000 purchase.
Yes. And I would say right now, the legacy automakers, and especially the legacy dealerships, I'll take it even a step further, are disincentivized from promoting EVs because it's a dirty little secret. Not a lot of people like to talk about, but I'm just going to say it out loud. Dealerships get most of their recurring revenue from service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Internal combustion engines require a lot of service. Oil changes, spark plugs, timing belt changes. I mean, you name it, all sorts of little things. In warranty, out of warranty, whatever. EVs, I mean, sure. Every now and then you'll have a battery failure or a drive unit failure or whatever. But by and large, it's tires, wiper blades, washer fluid.
Even like on your Model 3, even there, like the not recall, but the service under warranty were minimal. It was like a charge door wasn't opening. This isn't going to keep a dealership in business as a giant revenue stream, is when you just have tiny failures. You need, like you said, you need timing belt replacements where it's $5,000 to do.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So I think, again, I don't work at a dealership. I don't know all the inner workings, but I would guess, I wouldn't put it past the general managers telling their sales staff, hey, don't push those because we get zero service revenue from those. Push this one, we get lots of service revenue from those. That's what we want to promote. That's what keeps the lights on, keeps you guys in the job. So until that shift happens, which, I mean, I honestly don't know when that's going to happen, because I mean, basically a large scale shift to EVs will require a fundamental shift of the dealership business model, because where are they going to get their recurring revenue going forward? I don't know. So I think the ones that do figure that out, I really, again, I know I sound like a broken record about this. I do think it comes down to butts and seats, because I'll give you, for instance, like if, someone went into, let's take the Porsche Macan for an example, because right now they still have both. You can still get the ICE or the EV in the US, at least. You drive the ICE model, so makes the vroom vroom noises. It's fun to drive, sounds sporty. The sales guy says, "Hey, why don't we try this one out?" And it's smooth, it's quick, and maybe the person's like, "Oh, I don't know, where do I charge it and stuff?" And they're like, "Oh, well, included with the purchase is a $2,000 credit to set up a level 2 home charger, plus they could have like an interactive map in the showroom of like ChargeWay or Electrify America or whatever, and like show all the little pinpoints on the map, like, oh, look at all these charging stations around you."
Yeah. I think as soon as they show it in the vehicle on the screen and they just pull up charging stations on the map and it goes boop, and there's 200 just sitting there on the map. I think that's the game. I think that,
and people will be like, "Oh,
sell.
what was I worried about?"
Yeah,
because I still think there's a lot of and I think there's still a lot of residual FUD of just not knowing. I mean, to me, ignorance is such an ugly word, but I mean, really ignorance. I mean, people that have not driven one, they haven't ridden in one, they've kind of been in their ideological echo chambers saying, EVs are a communist conspiracy or something, they're Biden-mobile or whatever, and they think they're these crappy, basically Chinese golf carts or whatever. But when they actually experience it, they're like, wow, this feels like the future. It's so smooth and quiet. People sharing like, oh yeah, I just plug it in at home, before I go to bed, wake up the next day, full battery, no muss, no fuss.
So I know you were just trying to convince me. I know that you were just trying to build a convincing argument that this can all happen, but you just convinced me of the opposite.
Okay.
The dealerships have to be on board.
Yes.
It's
exactly.
Butts in seats. The only way that happens is at dealerships or like the sales, whatever they're called.
Incentives?
No, where they've got a store in a mall, and then like when I went to VinFast and
Oh yeah, a gallery,
gallery,
or
whatever it is.
whatever. Yeah.
That's the only way it's going to happen. Dealerships are never going to be, well, we should sell the EV. So you're never going to get butts in seats through a dealership that is operating on a traditional way of doing things. And they have to operate on the traditional way of doing things because that's the way the business is set up. So if you leave this to itself, you've got the salesperson who's going to come in and sell you an ICE vehicle over an EV. The only way I could see this working, like moving over to EVs with that, as now I'm thinking about that, is when non-dealers are allowed in all the states or most of the states in America.
Or non-franchise dealers,
Yeah, you get rid of, you allow the galleries, you allow all of and direct sales. Like I could go to the VinFast gallery and purchase a VinFast and drive away with it or have it delivered to my house, whatever it is. And in some, like in California, I could do that. In some other states, you can't do it, which is going to make adoption crazy slow. Like I'm now thinking,
I don't know.
I think you got to blow up the whole system at this point.
Well, but
for
I think
EVs to succeed on their own.
I feel momentum is growing. I feel there's more and more consumer dissatisfaction with the traditional dealership experience. And there's getting
Nobody's
to be
happy
more...
with dealers. So my neighbor, 2 houses down from me, just went and he's got his, I've mentioned him before on this podcast. He's got his Mercedes, and it's like, he's on his second engine on it, and it's not that old. He asked me, he was going to buy a Tesla, and then, I don't know, that fell through. He didn't buy that. Well, the other day I noticed he had a big van, like a ProMaster or whatever it was in his driveway. And then it disappeared. I was just talking to him yesterday about this van, and he went to the dealership. He bought this, big van, spent a bunch of money on it. And within like a day or two, all the lights went on the dash. So he takes it back to the dealer, and they're like, oh, whatever excuse, whatever, we'll fix it, whatever. He ended up having to get an attorney, spend $2,000 on attorney's fees to eventually, when they went with the attorney to the dealership, they were like, oh, we don't want any litigation. We'll just take it back, because they didn't want to take it back. This thing was a lemon. And it cost him $2,000 in attorney fees and the threat of a lawsuit against the dealership. And so that was like a Dodge, I think it was the Dodge ProMaster, whatever it was. Yeah. And now he's like, I'll probably buy like a Toyota Tundra. Like he's not even going to go back to a Dodge dealership anymore. He's just done with that. So they've not only have they lost that sale, but the dealership was such a pain that you had to put thousands of dollars up of your own money, willing to lose it, and then he's going to go and get himself a pickup.
Yeah.
Like dealerships are not good. There's no good experience. Comment below in YouTube, on the YouTube video. Like if you've had a good dealership experience, let us know, because I went in years ago, bought a car cash, and it was an awful experience.
I've had what I'd consider neutral experiences.
I guess that's good these days.
It wasn't great. It wasn't horrible. It was just very kind of transactional and just, whatever. So to me, that's kind of the high bar for me. I've had much worse than that. But, if it's relatively respectful and friction free, and they don't try to tack on a bunch of useless, crap I don't want, I consider that a win. Unfortunately, that has been the exception to the rule. The rule has been, let me talk to my manager, and come back and like, we've added $8,000 and blah, blah, blah.
I went through that at a dealership. Yeah. I walked in, not cash in hand, but was paying cash. Told them I like the price. I don't want to negotiate. And it was like 3 hours of them going back and forth. And I'm like, dude, I just take my money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so not, I'm going to do my little Tesla fanboy thing here. I mean, now, granted, Tesla does change. I mean, they're notorious for changing pricing all the time. They change like seasonal incentives, like, 90 days of autopilot or blah, blah. Or,
Yeah, you've got to know when
whatever.
quarters end to be a smart shopper. You got to know like when quarters end, you got to
But-
track sales to see if are they going to try and do a big push at the end? Could I get free supercharging for a year if, I wait an extra week?
But the difference is it will be the same at any Tesla showroom anywhere in the country. It will be the same deal. It won't be like, oh, if you go to this guy down the street or, this guy one town over, blah, blah, blah. It's
How
like,
good is your negotiation skills?
Yeah, it's like, this is the deal. You could go here, you can go there. This is the deal. Take it or leave it. And I'm kind of like, fine. I'm like, I'd rather have that than all this other monkey business. But anyway, moving on. Okay, it's well established we're not big fans of dealers.
And that's going to be the biggest, I think, to wrap that up, dealerships are going to be the biggest.
Oh, absolutely. Without question.
You're saying butts in seats sell EVs, but unfortunately, dealerships sell cars and they have zero incentive to sell EVs.
Exactly. They have no incentive. They're, in fact, I would say actively disincentivized from selling EVs because of the future recurring revenue. Anyway.
Yeah. So we just summed up what we spoke about for 20 minutes. We just summed up in 30 seconds. Yes. You're welcome, listeners. You're welcome.
So let's look into the crystal ball a little bit. Mm-hmm. So you're pretty involved in the motorsports community.
Here and there, a little bit, dabbling
still, predominantly ICE, and probably will be for a while, I would say. Mm-hmm. But you're starting to see EVs kind of creep in, kind of in the periphery here and there.
Yep.
So basically, I came up with four major categories. I mean, I'm sure if you were to break it down further, there'd be like dozens, but the four main categories of motorsports that I've come up with: drag racing, road/endurance racing, autocross, and off-road. Would you say that's generally, broad categories? That's
I mean, ones? Off-road is there's both fast and slow off-road.
Mm-hmm.
So there's everything from
professional
rock crawling
there's like
to
Baja,
desert.
and then there's rock crawling. But big picture, those are the main big categories.
Yep.
So I would say EVs lend themselves better to some of these than others. So I think we discussed this before. I think drag racing, you're already starting to see EVs. Even like Weekend Warriors, the Model S versus Hellcat, or even more, serious like purpose-built models. You're seeing EVs start to get into drag racing. Not like NHRA top fuel level. But
so that was where I was going to go with each of these. You got drag racing, road racing, and endurance racing, autocross. Autocross not so much, and off-road. Taking autocross out, every one of those has pro level and amateur level.
Mm-hmm.
So autocross is just all amateur level. There's some that you can win money and whatever, but it's still all amateur level. There's no like televised autocross. So you don't have like John Force autocross team. That doesn't exist. Like with drag racing on the pro, you're saying like you're seeing the EVs could come in and that I think yes, but I think on the amateur level. I think pro, you're going to see top fuel for a long time. That's a spectacle. That is an experience that will damage your body and knock years off of your life just to go and see. So, yes, I think.
Well, see, so this kind of ties into another kind of question I had. Is motorsports more about the spectacle or more about advancing technology? Or would you say both?
I think gone are the days where you win on Sunday, sell on Monday. I think motorsport development is not as essential anymore.
It's its own track. It's completely divorced from I'd say consumer cars.
Yeah. I think at this point it's at best an image. Now, that there is an exception. I think like Lucid probably did it pretty well. They got in with Formula E doing battery development long before anybody knew. Before Lucid was really called Lucid, they were doing,
Ativa, I think,
they were doing this battery development that then is incorporated back into presumably, into Lucid, and they've got these incredibly efficient EVs and great battery energy density and motors that are more efficient than anything. And I think they've done a decent job. So I think that there is room for that. But I think like Toyota doesn't need to be in NASCAR to make a better Camry. Like that,
no, it's just a rolling billboard on the track.
Yeah, it's marketing at this point.
Yeah.
It's marketing, it's image. That's what motorsports is on a pro level. So what was your question?
No, just, I mean, the question was, will EVs and motorsports ever, and I said in brackets, within the next 50 years, be common/mainstream? And I guess kind of getting back to what you said, you need to further break it down between amateur and professional.
Yeah. Because I think that EV drag racing, there's a couple problems with it.
Yeah.
So drag racing is fun and requires skill, but only at a certain speed.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get to very low speed amateur stuff, there's no like, hold it onto the car. It's the launch. It's reaction time. It's the launch till you get traction down. It's the first 60 feet. And after that, it just doesn't even matter. You're banging through gears unless you accidentally miss a gear or whatever. With EVs, it largely just takes it to reaction time.
Yeah.
It takes everything else out of it. You're only going to be drag racing probably all-wheel drive cars. They're already set up for launch mode, that all of that's already taken. It's just simply you're sitting gas and brake. You can take your foot off the brake when you see the final yellow light, and off you go. You just have to adjust it. So it may make it a little boring. You may have it where people go to experience the 1.99 seconds 0 to 60 and then don't return because you can't fit it with your car. Like back in the day, you get yourself a 5.0 Mustang and you go drag racing on Wednesday nights, amateur night, and then maybe you order an intake and then you go back and you see, did that do anything? And you order something else. Like, and you tinker. You're not tinkering with these. It's 100% reaction time. And even, I mean, yeah, okay, tires, you can get better tires, but you're at the limit with the tires already. Like the tires that are there are pretty good. You're not really spinning all 4 tires off the line.
So I mean, you're like that Toyota engineer. It's like watching fireworks on mute.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I think it numbs the experience down. I think you're going to have a lot of people that want to use their cars. But specifically in drag racing, EV drag racing is going to be boring quickly. It's not going to keep you coming back as an amateur. You might go half as much. I don't know. Like autocross, you've got the skill involved of turning and braking. So there's a lot more to it. There's the launch, but also everything else that goes with it, and suspension tuning that goes along with it, and brakes. There's more to tinker with. With drag racing, maybe I'm just a fool who doesn't know that, because I don't know drag racing that well.
No, I mean, I could see motorsports kind of being predominantly internal combustion. I would say potentially for the next century.
For pro level.
Pro level, yeah. But by that time, in terms of road cars, basically at the point the road cars have gone almost 100% electric, there will still be internal combustion motorsports.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you're going to see...
I kind of see ICE kind of becoming like horses.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's kind of a rough analogy, but, you know, in the 18th and I'd say, early to mid, even into the late 19th century, horses were utilitarian. They were used for transport, police patrols, the term workhorse was literally a horse. Whereas now horses are kind of a luxury item. I mean, I guess for lack of a better term, where you go to these, professional like rodeo events or, show events where, they do the prances and the riders have these elaborate costumes and, all that.
Dressage. Yep.
Yeah. So that's
yeah. I think it's going to be a lower bar to own an ICE vehicle than own a horse, because you could just
well, no, I know,
build
but I'm
stuff.
even
But
getting
yeah,
so I would say even getting to that point. So, and I'll see if I can find a link for this, but I saw the net number of gas stations in the US is declining. So year by year, and I saw this happening when I was living down in Orange County. I saw a gas station basically demolished and turned into a Raising Cane's chicken fingers. And I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that, but you know, but it's going to,
all the diesel biofuel guys are still dropping by.
yeah, can I have your oil? Yeah. So I think, again, I think bottom line is this all comes down to economics. And specifically when it comes to gas stations, if the model becomes, I mean, already a lot of what I've read says the fuel station owners get more from the convenience store side, you know, like Twinkies and Ho-Hos and Budweiser and, you know, Doritos.
Sounds like a great Saturday night to me.
You know, than from gas. So, I mean, I guess at some point when that shifts where they're like, I don't want to have to deal with the gas thing anymore. And especially, I mean, I'm sure I've seen it a bunch of times in California. I think you're literally mandated to have to dig up your storage tanks and replace them. I want to say they got like a 20 or 30-year life.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to the end of that, they literally have to like completely close the fuel station, get big backhoes and literally dig up these tanks and replace them. Probably my guess would be millions of dollars. You know, I'm sure that can't be cheap, or
yeah,
at least
it's not going to get cheaper.
Yeah. And at what point do the station operators, whether it's just an independent or, you know, a chain or whatever, said, this is just doesn't pencil out anymore in terms of revenue and profits. We're gonna shift to more of a cafe, you know, food mart type model and put EV charging stations in. I think it'll be longer term a battle of attrition where it'll shift. I mean, already, I think California is already past this point where quantitatively, there are more charging stations and gas stations in California. Now, I don't know if that's charging points, like,
yeah, the number's very vague on it.
Yeah. So it's a little hazy on that, but I mean, you could say California's already past that point. I think Norway's past that a long time ago, where it's going to be a matter of driving around and people with an ICE fuel are like, man, there's no gas stations open anymore. And they start noticing all these charging stations and they're like, oh, maybe it's time, you know?
Well, to bring it back,
we could see that in about 15 years or so.
To bring that back to motorsports, the road racing and endurance racing, I mean, endurance racing is going to be like, that's impossible to do an EV and make that
without a battery swap.
Yeah, you have to do battery swaps. And there's a guy that's doing it, and he can do a battery swap in, I forget what it is, 45 seconds, minute and a half, something like that, on a little sports racer. And it's possible, but it requires a team.
Yeah.
And his team is really old guys. So it's not like it requires like a NASCAR team. Like, you can have 3 really old guys that can do this in like a minute and a half or whatever the number is. But you still need a team. Like, I have run an enduro myself as the sole driver, not 24 hours.
And filled your own tank.
And filled my own tank, got out. I needed to get somebody else, which I just grabbed another driver to stand there with a fire extinguisher. But I still got out of the car, stopped in my pit stall, grabbed the fuel jug that I'd already set ready to go, fueled my car, put the thing back, jumped in my car, and went, and pain in the butt, never do it again. But you just couldn't do that with an EV. Anyway, there's racetracks that are building, like my local track has a supercharger at it now. They open a new racetrack, it's got a supercharger right there. We talked about it a few weeks ago. There are also racetracks that simply won't allow EVs to run. And so there's that's going to be the education process there. Because it's all like fire. They're scared of the fire, and to a point, rightly so. Like, one of these cars, if an EV starts to go down, it can burn for
thermal
days.
Runaway. That's no joke. I mean, if it happens,
you don't have enough water because there isn't enough water You need a dunk tank or a blanket to safely get this out. So I understand the fear, but you've still got to get over that for something like amateur road racing. But as far as road racing goes, like IMSA stuff, like ALMS type, I don't see that going EV for a long time. Now, hybrid's a whole other world. Hybrid, you can get the best of both worlds on this. And that is going to be like a gateway drug, but I think it's going to be a long time before you want to lose the spectacle of it. Like, to me, go to Long Beach Grand Prix, and it'll be the same at any motorsport event, but it always occurs to me when I go to Long Beach. As you park, or even as you pull into town, you can hear the roar. And then you park, and as you get closer, the roar and the vibrations get bigger and bigger, and it builds this excitement, this anticipation. You just don't get that with EVs. It just isn't there. And
you just hear this like very quiet whoosh.
Yeah, like it's just...
You hear cats?
Yes, you hear a cat. And so with off-road, though, interesting, if we go down this line here, you got off-road. Long distance desert stuff, that's going to be the same as enduro road racing. You got to have gas for that, or a team, whatever. If you're going to do battery swaps, it requires a team, and it's going to be so dusty, and it's just, I don't know, you can figure it out, I'm sure, but that'll be the last thing to go. But as far as like rock crawling, like pro rock crawling stuff, or amateur rock crawling, or jamming around the dunes, whatever, totally EV. Like, I can totally see that.
Well, I mean, one thing I think we may have, I mean, we've done so many of these now. I'm trying to remember back how long ago we talked about this. But the Rubicon Trail from end to end, I think it's something like 23 miles long. It's not like 500 miles. So now, granted, it could, when you're going up like a 45-degree angle, that'll consume a lot of power. But again, you're doing it at 3 miles per hour.
Yeah.
You're not doing it at like 50 miles an hour. So, assuming there's like, a charging station at the trailhead, I mean, there's no reason you can go the full length of the Rubicon on a single charge, potentially.
Well, there is. There's a off-road YouTubers that I watched, and there was I want to say it was a Cybertruck.
Well,
got stuck and was stuck for a long time.
Okay, but was it stuck because it was out of battery, or was it stuck because it got like hung up on something?
Yeah, it was not an off-road vehicle.
No, but so that's not an inherent shortcoming of EVs. That's just driver skill and vehicle capability.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it had plenty of juice. It just didn't.
Yeah.
Didn't have anywhere to use it.
So I want to get kind of to the next point I was getting back. So, I mentioned horses earlier. So this next story, depending on who you ask, is kind of anecdotal and kind of how true it was or not. I think you could make a case, if you were there in the moment, you could say, yeah, this is kind of a mess. But there's kind of this apocryphal story that the switch in New York, I think New York and London, I've heard kind of both sides of the story, both New York and London. They had so many horses that manure was becoming like a huge problem. Like, the amount of manure being produced and being in the streets was, especially when it rained, it would basically turn into like this mud. Basically, they were constantly having to shovel it up and clean it up. And it was just one stat, and again, this is more than 100 years ago, so who knows exactly. It said, at the turn of the 20th century, New York had an estimated 100,000 to 200,000 horses on the street, creating 25 to 30 pounds of manure each, or more than 3 million pounds a day.
Wow.
Yeah. So that led, according to some, the development of the New York subway. And also, I guess, again, the story kind of originated in London, but, London's a big, large metropolis, and I could imagine they were experiencing the same kind of thing. So I guess the point I'm getting at is potentially you had a situation where the issue was so obvious that it was kind of unavoidable, and it wasn't up for debate. Like, anyone could look at it and say, okay, this manure is a problem. we got to find a better way to do this.
Yeah.
So fast forward to the 20th century, and we're going to talk to, well, I don't want to call him a hero. I don't want to get too political about this, but Ronald Reagan, who we've talked about before, kind of, I don't want to say an accidental or kind of ironic hero of the progressive environmental movement. CARB was created under his tenure. Anyway, but back, I would say I've seen stories and reports dating back to like the late 1940s. Smog in the LA basin was really bad. I think the 50s to the 70s, it kind of reached a crisis point where it was just like so bad. It was causing so many health issues that it was like, we have to do something.
Yeah, you can find, there's websites that are, they have the images from the 1940s and 50s LA. And it was, everybody thinks it was bad in the 60s. I think because with a lot of the emission stuff for California, they started in the 50s, I believe, long before catalytic converters, to get the emissions down. Because in these photos, you would see people like holding handkerchiefs over their mouths just to go outside. They would regularly cancel like high school outdoor sports because of the smog that was so bad. And this is 2 decades before they introduced catalytic converters.
So I guess, again, this is another example of something that was so self-evident that there was kind of this collective desire to address it and take care of it. And I think that's another one of the problems with EVs now is you could argue that internal combustion technology in terms of like emissions controls, catalytic converters, particulate filters, whatever you want to, whatever, hybrids, whatever, have lowered the smog down to a level where, I mean, there's still like smog alerts in the LA area, but they're like, I don't know, I want to say like 5 or 6 a year.
It's few and far between.
Opposed to like every day.
Yeah, they're few and far between, and they're largely in certain geographic areas in Southern California, at least, where the wind doesn't go through. Like the area that I'm in, it's always nice. Like, well,
because probably you get winds that just kind of.
Yeah, we got the sea breeze that comes in, but I think that that's a lot of California now, whereas it used to be a lot of California was in dire straits. Now, I think most of California is fine. It's just a handful of counties that are having continuous smog issues.
So I guess the question I'm getting at is, what will it take? What will be the defining issue that makes EVs kind of self-evident, where it's kind of like the no-brainer choice? Or do you think we'll ever get to that point?
You've once again convinced me that we're not going to do it. Well,
I mean, it's tough to kind of pinpoint what it might be. I mean,
well, as we were discussing, the dealers have no incentive to sell an EV, and so they're just simply not going to. So if you wait for dealers to do it, that was what we discussed 40 minutes ago. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. Here, now you've just said, okay, they have piles of horse crap. That was impossible to ignore. In the 1940s and 50s in LA, they had smog that was leaving you black in the face. Like, it was impossible to ignore. Now, due to all of these emissions controls that we've put in over the decades, emissions are so small that you don't have anything that's obvious. So I'm a runner. I go out, I run almost every day. I'll run. And I don't smell gas. You just don't. You run down the main street and you don't smell it. Then some old diesel truck will go by, or some classic car, or a motorcycle, something that doesn't have emissions on it, and you smell it. And, or something from the early 80s will drive by and you smell it. But by and large, Camrys go by, modern trucks go by, gasoline versions. You just don't smell it. It's not in your face anymore. And so and if it's not in your face, you're just not going to think about it.
So I did have a little bit of a light bulb moment. Do you think the maintenance requirements on modern cars will ultimately be the tipping point? Because I would say this is especially apparent with diesels, because you got the the DEF, the exhaust fluid. You've
Mm-hmm.
got DPFs. You got, EGRs getting clogged. Now Ford, I can't remember if we discussed this or not. The 2026 F-150 EcoBoost is getting a gas particulate filter, which has been, on diesels for, I'd say, better part of a decade at this point. But, a lot of people are expecting that may cause some issues down the road, where the maintenance required to keep these modern engines emissions compliant, $400 here, $500 here, $1,000, 1,200. And it's like the steady cadence every like 6 or 12 months or every couple of years. The people are just going to get tired of that and be like, I'm done trying to deal with this. EVs, change the tires, top off the washer fluid, change the cabin filter. I don't have to deal with any of this BS.
It's funny you say this because that's exactly where I am. I used to enjoy changing the oil on my cars, but now I've got like a fleet of cars, and every time I have to do something like an oil change, or I'm looking at like transmission fluid change, something that's a little bit more, and I'm under the car and I enjoy it a little bit less because I'm like, what else could I be doing? And part of what I did when I got into motorsports and I started racing myself was I set up the other parts of my life, automotive parts of my life, with the lowest level of maintenance possible. So I bought just a commuter car that I'm not going to modify it. I don't have to do anything else to it. And so now I look at it and I'm like, man, like an EV, I just simply wouldn't be doing this. I just simply would not have this maintenance. I would change the fluid in the gearbox every 70,000 miles, whatever it's slated to be. You'd change the tires 20,000 miles, whatever it is. Like the way I'm setting up my life so I can do what I want to do, I'm trying to simplify the things that I have to do. And EVs do exactly that. They don't have any of those other maintenance issues. So for somebody like me, yeah, that was why when I was looking for a car to replace my gas car, I was looking at a Model S. Was no maintenance.
I mean, but in your conversations with other people, family, friends, enthusiasts, non-enthusiasts, whatever, I mean, would you say a pretty common narrative? Like, oh my God, I can't believe how much maintenance.
My neighbor with the
on
Mercedes.
Yeah.
That was exactly why he was looking for a Tesla. It was the maintenance and the problems that he's had with his Mercedes. That he's like,
ICE Mercedes?
Yeah, with his ICE Mercedes, if he goes to an EV, you eliminate 100% of the issues that he's had with his Mercedes. They don't exist anymore.
Did he ultimately buy an EV, or is that still?
He got the van. He's the guy that got the van that I was talking about.
That's the van guy.
Yeah.
So,
but that was several years ago that he was looking at. I don't know why he didn't get the Tesla. I don't know. Actually, I do know why, and that's none of your business.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, but I hear that kind of building. It's maybe not kind of in the headlines yet, but I see that kind of emerging as
the idea
more and more common.
It goes back to the very beginning of this. You no longer have to take and I know people that hate doing this. So a lot of people that I know, they lease a car or they flip it every 3 or 4 years. And so everything they do, they're not paying for maintenance. It's all warranty stuff. They just take it back to the dealership.
But it's still time out of their day, though.
Yeah. Exactly. And I hear those complaints. So with all the people that I know that only buy or lease brand new vehicles, it's going to be a very easy sell for them to go, oh, I don't have to deal with the dealership that I hate. That could be the start of a tipping point more than butts in seats that dealers won't want to do. Is people are going to be like, well, I'm just going to get an EV. And at that point, how can you get the EV if dealers aren't going to be selling them and the manufacturers are cutting back on their EV production? And then it leads to, well, okay, so now you're down to like Rivian, Lucid, Tesla. And I don't know about you.
Potentially BYD.
Yeah, the Chinese come in and there you go.
Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of reviews recently kind of bagging on Lucid about the build quality.
I've heard software.
Well, that's what I'm using as a general term, like the quality of the vehicle. is that I've got a guy opposite the school where my kids go has got a Lucid and a Rivian. And I'm like, whoa, I wonder what your life is like. You're going all in on this like experimental lifestyle. So it depends on what he sees as, whether it'll be interesting to see, because he's one of those people that flips a car every 3 years. So it'll be interesting to see what's the next vehicle in his driveway. But I think maintenance is a big thing. But it's not going to be something that you can see. It's going to be something that you experience. So it's not going to be the piles of horse crap. It's not going to be the all the particulates around your nose. It's going to be how much time out of your day, because everything that I set my life up for, and a lot of other people do as well, is what is the least amount of time to do certain things that you don't want to do. Who wants to change the oil? I used to want to, don't want to anymore. Maybe back to 20-year-old Phil. Maybe I do, but I'm not 20-year-old Phil anymore.
Well,
so I don't want to do it.
I'm wondering what if it's going to come down to is like backyard barbecues and people just kind of casually sharing their experiences and like, oh man, I had to take it to the dealer and it was a $2,000 repair bill and I had to do all that and this and that. And it was, hey, don't you own a Tesla or a Rivian or something? Oh yeah, barely do anything.
It's going to be that person that just says, oh, you did that? Like, I haven't even been to a dealership and I bought my car. Like anyway. So where do we go? I think I left this episode very down on EVs. I think well, I
mean, I think to me,
it's a long road
my take
at this point.
It's a long road. I mean, my takeaway from this is it's still a giant question mark in terms of when the tipping point's going to take place and what will be the catalyst for it. I think it's going to be more psychological than like real. I think it's going to be a mental tipping point for a lot of people where EVs, the early adopters had to make a lot of sacrifices to have an EV. I think it's when it's going to be where the script flips, where it's more of a pain in the butt to drive and own an ICE than it is to drive and own an EV. And I think once that happens, I think you might start seeing the dominoes fall. But anyway, whether that's 2035, 2040, 2050,
right now is a very interesting time. When we started the podcast, there were a lot of incentives. There were a lot of EV incentives. Everything was being driven and now it's all gone. And so it will be interesting to see come 2028 in America, what the political landscape looks like. Does it swing hard to the left? Or do we end up where we should, which is somewhere in the middle? And is somewhere in the middle does that have any incentives? And if those incentives are not there or just kind of like sort of there, whatever, like it's really going to dictate what the outlook on this is. Right now, I'm like, I don't see how EVs come and take over. Maybe by 2035, they're like, I don't know, 30% sales in America. Like it's when you've got nobody who wants to sell them.
Yeah.
You've got
no incentives.
No incentive, no way to buy them. You've got and you go outside and you smell the air and you can't smell gasoline in the air and you're not seeing the effects of it necessarily. It's a hard,
it's tough.
It's a hard sell. It's a hard road to go up if there's no incentives for it. But should we have the incentives? I mean, we had them before and they seemed like they were handing out free money and now they're not. And it's going to be I don't think 2026 is going to be a crazy year as far as EVs go or anything. I think we're kind of where we are. 2026, what's the crystal ball for 2026? More of exactly what we've just experienced over this last year.
I think 2026 is going to see like a small scale renaissance of ICE is my prediction. 27, at least according I think you'll see a batch of new EVs come to the market. 28 could potentially be a big tipping point, both politically and technologically, but still TBD.
Yeah, it really could go depending on how 28 goes. That's going to set the standard for the next 4 years at that point.
Yeah,
and it's always going to be whatever. We've gone way over. We're at nearly an hour, so I'm going to say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
and go to thewhatcar.com/store, I guess. Am I still promoting that? I did at the beginning, so I'll do it at the end. YouTube.com/@thewalkcar. Watch us
Click
on our
on the
faces.
shorts tab,
Oh yeah, watch our shorts. Look, check out our shorts.
the videos, that is.
I think it's a sign that I'm old that I find that so funny. I'm both a kid with my humor and I'm old because it just sounds silly to say, check out our shorts. I don't know. What?
How about we start doing the walk car shorts in the store? How about that?
I'm not really sure if our vendor does shorts.
We should look into that.
I need to do that. All right.
Anyway.
Next week, we're not here.
Yes, taking a break.
I don't think. Unless something happens. There's something called CES, and it's way too difficult to record.
Yes, but I will be there on the ground. If there's any big breaking news or developments there, I will discuss it at some point in the future.
You tell us that the Afila is there again.
Yes, again, we do know that. Their business model is still as obscure and mysterious as ever, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yep. All right. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. See you then.
See ya.